The knock on the door was soft but deliberate, breaking the quiet tension of the observation chamber. The low hum of psionic stabilizers and faint pulses of light from Sai'la's medical equipment seemed to pause for a moment as all eyes turned toward the door. Valoria, ever composed, tilted her head slightly, her crystalline eyes narrowing with curiosity. Even her glowing patterns, which radiated a steady, serene rhythm, flickered faintly in response to the unexpected sound. One of the attendants hesitated, glancing at Valoria for approval before moving to open the door. The heavy door slid open with a whisper, revealing the human standing there, his posture slightly hunched as if unsure whether he was welcome. His appearance was unremarkable by human standards, dark hair slightly tousled, simple clothes with creases from wear, but there was a distinct nervous energy about him. In his hands, he clutched a modest bouquet of flowers, their delicate petals trembling slightly, and a small basket of colourful alien fruits that glistened faintly under the room's soft lighting. Hi, I'm David," the human began awkwardly, his voice carrying a hesitant warmth that contrasted with the sterile atmosphere of the chamber. His eyes flicked nervously from Valoria to Sai'la, who lay propped against the pillows, her faintly glowing patterns casting soft reflections on the smooth metallic surface of her bedding. I wanted to check in, after, well, everything. To be honest, I wasn't sure if you'd even be awake when I got here. I mean, I came by before when you were still in a coma, but I didn't really know what to say then." He hesitated, his expression softening. "I'm glad you're awake, that's good." Sai'la blinked, her features twitching erratically as if mirroring her confusion. The faint tremors in her movements softened, then steadied as she focused on him. Slowly she attempted to sit up straighter, but the effort left her trembling. Valoria, standing nearby, raised a hand in a calming gesture and silently motioned for the human to step inside. Her neutral expression betrayed no hint of her thoughts, though her steady gaze tracked his every movement with quiet intensity. "I didn't know what to bring," he said, his tone light but tinged with nervousness. He rubbed the back of his neck awkwardly as he stepped closer to Sai'la's bedside. The flowers and fruit shifted slightly in his grasp, as though he was uncertain what to do with them. "So, flowers and fruit, kind of a universal thing, right?" Sai'la's voice, soft and hesitant, broke the silence. "You came to see me?" The human nodded, offering a small, sheepish smile. "Well, yeah," he admitted, though his chuckle was strained, betraying the lingering tension he felt. "I mean, I feel kinda responsible. Not for all of it, obviously," he added quickly, glancing at Valoria as if afraid she might misinterpret his words. The human added, his expression softening as his gaze lingered on Sai'la. So, how are you feeling? I mean, after, well, everything." Sai'la blinked, her glowing patterns pulsing faintly as her gaze flicked toward him, then quickly dropped to the blanket covering her legs. Her hands shifted slightly, clasping and unclasping as if searching for something to hold on to. "I'm healing," she said after a long pause, her voice almost a whisper. "It's slow." David shifted awkwardly, his grip tightening on the bouquet and fruit basket. "I wasn't sure if I should come, honestly. After what happened, I figured you might not want to see me. Or, think about me." Sai'la blinked as she looked up at him. Her gaze lingered on him for a moment before she spoke, her voice soft but earnest. I am surprised you came." Sai'la hesitated, her hands fidgeting with the blanket. "But I'm glad you did," she added quietly. "And I owe you my thanks. If you hadn't called for help, I don't think I'd still be here." David's brows raised slightly, caught off guard by her sincerity. "Oh, it's nothing really," he said, his voice tinged with unease. "You were in trouble. I just did what anyone would do." Sai'la shook her head faintly. "No, not anyone. Most would have been angry, and they would have been right to be. I intruded into your mind. I invaded your privacy in a way I cannot justify. And yet, you helped me. You saved me." Her gaze dropped, unable to meet his eyes, as she continued, her voice tinged with guilt. "I don't know if I can ever truly apologize for what I did. I underestimated you. Your mind. It was more than I could handle, and now—" She gestured weakly toward herself, her expression burdened. "Now you come here, bringing gifts, offering kindness. You shouldn't have had to do any of that." Sai'la flinched, her gaze dropping again. "I'm sorry," she whispered, the words heavy with regret. David chuckled, breaking some of the tension in the room. "Well, it freaked me out. What you did, I mean. Having someone poke around in my head like that? Yeah, that's a new level of weird. But, David continued, his tone gentle, you didn't mean to hurt me. And from what I've learned about you, your people, I mean, you were just curious. Maybe too curious for your own good, but still. He offered a small smile. I get it, I really do. Sai'la looked up again, her eyes shimmering with a mixture of hope and doubt. You do? Sure, he said with a shrug. I mean, I've done plenty of stupid things just because I wanted to know what would happen. Granted, they usually didn't involve psychic powers, but still. He set the bouquet and fruit basket on a nearby table, stepping closer to her bedside. So yeah, I forgive you. Just maybe don't do it again, okay? Valoria, who had remained silent throughout the exchange, finally spoke, her voice calm but firm. You are a remarkable species, David. Her crystalline eyes glimmered as they fixed on him. Your capacity for forgiveness, it is rare, even among the most advanced civilizations. Sai'la's glowing patterns shifted faintly, a ripple of unease crossing her features. She lowered her gaze again, her hands twisting the fabric of the blanket in a gesture that spoke louder than any words. For a brief moment it seemed as though she might respond, but her mouth closed again, leaving the silence hanging heavily between them. The two attendants shared a brief glance, a silent exchange of understanding passing between them. Is it just me? The first attendant whispered, leaning slightly toward her colleague. Or is this unbearably awkward? They straightened as Valoria's gaze swept over them, her eyes cold and commanding. The attendants quickly resumed their formal stances, their expressions smoothing into a mask of professionalism. Valoria, ever composed, finally broke the silence, her crystalline eyes shifting between Sai'la and David. So, she began, her voice calm yet pointed, did you get a pet? The question hung in the air for a moment, and Sai'la's patterns flared briefly with bright, embarrassed hues. Her markings pulsed erratically, and her gaze dropped to her lap. The weight of Valoria's question was clear to her. It meant that the council head was fully aware of everything Sai'la had experienced in David's mind. David, on the other hand, seemed to miss the implication entirely. He chuckled, a light, self-deprecating sound. Oh yeah, I got a pet rock. The room fell into stunned silence. Sai'la blinked, her patterns dimming in confusion, while the two attendants exchanged quick, puzzled glances. They seemed to silently debate whether to question him, but Valoria's subtle shift in posture, the barest narrowing of her crystalline gaze, kept them quiet. Finally, the younger attendant couldn't help herself. A rock? She asked tentatively, her voice laced with both confusion and curiosity. Yup, David replied, his tone casual as he leaned slightly against the wall. Low maintenance, doesn't eat much, and it's always there when you need it. Best pet I've ever had. The two attendants exchanged another glance, their illuminated patterns flickering with bewilderment. Neither dared to probe further, though their expressions suggested a shared, unspoken question. What kind of species keeps a rock as a companion? Valoria allowed a small, amused smile to cross her features before returning her attention to Sai'la, who was now visibly trying to shrink into her bedding. One of the attendants, the younger of the two, cleared her throat. If I may, how do you even function with all that chaos in your head? It sounds impossible. You must rely on others a lot, or struggle to accomplish much. David shrugged, his expression humble but sincere. Honestly? Yeah, sometimes I rely on other people, but I've learned to channel all that chaos into something useful. I work in the adjacent building, the one that designs video games. The younger attendant's patterns brightened suddenly, a flicker of recognition sparking in her gaze. Wait, are you David Calder? The designer of Legend of Eos? That was awarded Best RPG of the Year at the Galactic Game Summit. David's cheeks flushed faintly, and he rubbed the back of his neck. Yeah, that's me, he admitted, his tone as unassuming as ever. But honestly, it wasn't just me. I had an amazing team. Without them, Eos wouldn't have been as good as it is. The younger attendants' patterns shimmered with excitement, and even the elder attendants shifted slightly, betraying her interest. That game is a masterpiece, the younger attendant said with genuine admiration. The narrative design, the world building, it's unlike anything I've seen before. Her patterns shimmered with a mix of awe and curiosity. So you use your chaotic mind to create entire worlds? She asked, her tone tinged with wonder. David smiled lightly, shrugging. Pretty much. I guess you could say it's a way to give all those ideas a home. Otherwise, they just bounce around in my head forever. You are an extraordinary species, David, she said softly, breaking the silence. Her voice, though calm, carried a weight of deep admiration. You turned your weakness into power. Her gaze swept over the attendants, then back to Sai'la, as if contemplating the immense complexity of what had just transpired. There is a reason why humans are growing so fast, she continued, her voice carrying an almost reverent note. You turn weakness into strength. The elder attendant tilted her head, her patterns flickering softly. Your mind is fascinating, David, but if this chaos is so constant, doesn't it exhaust you? David's expression turned thoughtful. It does sometimes. David paused, taking a deep breath. But that's just one flavour of how a human brain can be, let's say, unique. There's a whole spectrum of other conditions out there, each with its own quirks and challenges. The attendants leaned in, their glowing patterns flickering with interest, though Valoria remained stoic, watching him intently. What do you mean? Take OCD, for example. Obsessive-compulsive disorder. David continued. It's not just about being super tidy or liking things in order, like some people think. It's this relentless loop in your brain, like an alarm that won't shut off. Some folks with OCD might feel an overwhelming need to check if a door is locked 20 times before leaving home. Others have to count things or follow strict rituals to keep anxiety at bay. The younger attendant's expression faltered, her unease evident as her demeanour softened. What if they don't follow the ritual? She asked, her voice tinged with uncertainty. David grimaced. It can feel like the world is going to end, like this crushing sense of dread that doesn't make sense but still won't go away. The elder attendant's patterns flickered with discomfort. And this is common among your kind? Not super common, but not rare either, David replied. And then there's schizophrenia. The room fell into tense silence, an instinctive ripple of unease passing between them. David exhaled, his expression shifting into something softer, almost apologetic. Schizophrenia is one of the hardest conditions to live with. Hard for the person experiencing it and hard for the people around them. Imagine, your mind is like a stage where thoughts and ideas play out, right? But for someone with schizophrenia, it's like that stage is overrun by actors who aren't supposed to be there, performing scripts no one wrote. The younger attendant blinked, her radiant patterns dimming as she processed his words. Actors that aren't supposed to be there. Hallucinations, David clarified, his voice lower now. Hearing voices, seeing things that aren't there. And they're not just little whispers or vague shapes. Sometimes they're vivid and loud, like a voice telling you that everyone's against you, or a shadowy figure in the corner that seems so real you'd swear you could touch it. The elder attendant's markings pulsed sharply, almost like a jolt. Voices that deceive? Shadows that aren't real? How does one discern reality from illusion in such a state? That's the thing, David said, his voice somber. Sometimes they can't. That's why it's so terrifying. The brain convinces them it's all real. Imagine walking into a room full of people and you hear them whispering your name, plotting against you, but when you confront them, they're confused because none of it happened. To you, it feels real, like a living nightmare you can't wake up from. The younger attendant recoiled slightly, her radiant patterns flickering erratically. But how can one trust anything in such a state? Even their own senses betray them. David nodded gravely. Exactly. And then there's the paranoia, the feeling that someone's always watching, that the world's out to get you. It can get so intense that some people isolate themselves completely, afraid to leave their homes. And that isolation just makes the symptoms worse. The elder attendant's glow dimmed to a deep, somber hue, her voice a quiet murmur. This is horrifying, a mind turned against itself, a reality fractured beyond recognition. Surely such a condition would cripple any individual. David sighed, leaning forward slightly. It does for some, but with the right treatment, therapy, medication, support, they can live fulfilling lives. It's not easy, though. The stigma around it doesn't help either. People misunderstand it, fear it. They think anyone with schizophrenia is dangerous, which isn't true. Most of the time, they're more scared of the world than the world is of them. Sai'la's luminescent markings pulsed faintly, reflecting her unease. They must feel so "Alone," she murmured, her voice barely audible. David nodded. "Yeah, a lot of them do. That's why it's so important to have people who understand, who don't judge them for something they didn't choose." The younger attendant's voice wavered, her composure faltering. "And these voices, do they ever stop, or are they forever bound to these illusions?" "It depends," David admitted. "Some people find ways to manage it, to quiet the voices. For others, they don't go away, but they learn to live alongside them, to tell what's real and what isn't. It's a constant battle, though, every day." The elder attendant now seemed visibly shaken. She took a step back, as if the sheer concept of schizophrenia was too much to process. "Your species," she began, her voice trembling, "to endure such torment within the confines of your own mind. It is a wonder you do not crumble under the weight of it." David smiled faintly, though there was little humour in it. "Some do, but a lot don't. Humans are stubborn like that. We push through, even when everything in us wants to give up. And the ones who survive, they're some of the strongest people I've ever met." The younger attendant's patterns shifted slowly, a mix of awe and fear rippling through her. To be haunted by illusions, tormented by unseen forces, it is incomprehensible. And yet, your kind still creates, thrives, evolves. David shrugged lightly, his expression thoughtful. "I think it's because we have to. If we didn't fight back, we'd lose everything. And sometimes it's that fight, the struggle, that shapes us into who we are." His explanation of schizophrenia hung in the air, heavy and oppressive. The room seemed to hold its breath. The glowing patterns of the aliens dimmed to the faintest flickers. Valoria remained still, her crystalline eyes locked onto David with an intensity that belied her otherwise composed demeanour. "A mind," she began softly, her voice steady but layered with a deep, unsettling weight, "that is fractured in such a way. It is a concept that defies all we know. For us, the mind is a sanctuary, a foundation upon which our abilities are built. To imagine a sanctuary that has turned against itself." She trailed off, her features shifting subtly, betraying the turmoil simmering beneath her calm exterior. Sai'la shifted uneasily, her hands tightening their grip on the edge of her blanket. "A mind like that," she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper, "would be chaos unending. To touch it would be to step into a void of pain and confusion, with no path back to oneself." Valoria inclined her head slightly, acknowledging Sai'la's words. "Yes," she said, her tone measured, though there was a faint tremor beneath her calm exterior. "For a psionic being, the mind is not merely a vessel for thought. It is a space of connection, clarity, and purpose. To encounter a mind plagued by voices and delusions, where reality itself is fragmented, it would be unbearable. To navigate such a mind would not only shatter the connection, it would likely shatter the psionic attempting it." Her crystalline gaze returned to David, studying him with a blend of fascination and disbelief. "And yet," she continued, her voice softening, "your kind endures this." Valoria's patterns flickered faintly, a ripple of unease passing through her as she processed his words. "Strength born from such suffering," she murmured, almost to herself, "to exist within a mind that betrays you, and yet still find a way to persevere." Her gaze shifted, distant for a moment, as though she were imagining the enormity of the struggle he described. When she spoke again, her tone was tinged with something rare, genuine awe. "In all my years as head of the Psionic Council, I have encountered minds of immense complexity, brilliant, chaotic, even hostile. But never have I conceived of a mind so fractured, so tormented by its own existence, and yet capable of surviving." Sai'la's glowing patterns pulsed faintly, reflecting her lingering unease. "It would be impossible for us," she said quietly. "No psionic could endure such chaos. Our connection to the mind is our essence. To touch a mind like that, it would consume us." David chuckled softly, though the sound was tinged with unease. "Yeah, humans have a knack for surviving things that probably should have killed us by now. I guess it's just what we do." The room was still, the quiet hum of machinery, the only break in the silence, as the attendants exchanged wary looks. Sai'la kept her gaze lowered to the blanket, her movements languid and introspective, as if lost in deep thought. David noticed the ripples of unease across the room, flickering patterns dimmed, nervous eyes shifting, and Valoria's crystalline gaze heavy with contemplation. He shifted on his feet, rubbing the back of his neck, his casual demeanour a practiced shield against the tension. "Well," he began, hesitating. The words hung in his throat as he glanced around the room. Sai'la was still, her glowing patterns subdued, her hands clutching the blanket as if grounding herself. The attendants had returned to their posts, their patterns flickering faintly, betraying their struggle to maintain composure. And then there was Valoria, calm, composed, yet undeniably shaken, her crystalline form shimmering faintly as if reflecting the weight of his revelations. David swallowed. "I mean, there are other conditions I could tell you about," he started, then stopped, immediately regretting the words. The faint flicker of alarm that passed across Sai'la's face made his stomach twist. Valoria's gaze shifted to him, serene but probing, as if inviting him to continue while silently bracing herself for whatever might come next. His mind raced. Do I tell them about BPD, ASPD, bipolar disorder, or DID? The thought alone made him cringe. He could already imagine their horrified reactions, the way they'd pale, the flicker of disbelief and dread in their glowing patterns. Schizophrenia had been enough to leave them reeling. To explain something like dissociative identity disorder, with its multiple distinct identities sharing a single mind? No, that would be too much for them. David forced a chuckle, trying to play it off. "Actually, you know what? Never mind," he said, waving a hand dismissively. "I think I've given you guys enough nightmare fuel for one day." Valoria's crystalline eyes narrowed slightly, her form dimming with curiosity. "David," she said, her tone calm but probing, "if there is more to share, we would listen, understanding your species further." He shook his head quickly, a nervous grin spreading across his face. "Nope, trust me on this one. Some things are better left unsaid." Sai'la tilted her head, her patterns flickering faintly. "Worse than schizophrenia?" she asked, her voice hesitant but tinged with disbelief. David hesitated, the grin faltering for a fraction of a second. "Not worse, exactly," he said carefully, "just different. And, definitely not something I think you guys are ready for." The attendants stood silently, their patterns pulsing faintly in shared tension. Valoria, however, remained still, her gaze unwavering. "Perhaps another time," she said finally, her voice soft but resolute. "We have much to reflect on already." David nodded, relieved to let the subject drop. "Yeah, another time, maybe." But as he glanced back at the others, their expressions a mix of awe and unease. He couldn't help but think, if they're this shaken by schizophrenia, Did would probably make their heads explode. Long after David had gone, his words remained, echoing in the stillness like an unshaken presence. A silent understanding passed between them. Humans did not merely endure chaos, they were shaped by it, sharpened by it. And that, more than anything, was why the universe might one day fear them, or bow in reverence.